Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. So I thought I'd come on and do a little early morning stream, but I promised to actually do one of the perfect movies. So, as you know, guys, one of the big things on the channels is there's a series on there, as you can see, called The Perfect Movies. So I started that this year, and so we've done three so far. In January, we did Silence of the Lambs. In February, we did Captain America: Winter Soldier, and in March, we did the Michael Mann film Heat. So usually I put them out in the first of the month, but the first week isn't bad. So what we're gonna do is I thought I'd do a little special stream and we do April's perfect movie. So April's perfect movie, and I've said it before, so you guys may know, but it's a film it's really kind of transformed our society, and how we look at the culture, and was really the first one to start everything up, if you think about it. And that's The Social Network. And The Social Network is one of those movies that it's just, I think it's a perfect movie. And there's so many good things about it. So I'm going to run through a couple of the facts to start out with. And then I'm going to tell you why I think it's a perfect movie. Because, look, I think for the most part, everybody has seen this. If you haven't, I will give you I'm not going to go plot point by plot point, but I'll give you a couple of highlights. And the other thing too is I'm going to tell you why I think personally it's a perfect movie. And it's interesting when we look back 13 years later from when this was done, and how it was done. So, um, let's talk a little bit about The Social Network. Um, so first and foremost, um, it was released in the beginning of October of 2010. Um, It made $22.5 million opening weekend, which you have to understand. This is 13 years ago, right? And I say only because we have over 4,000 right now. 2,700 theaters. So that's interesting to think about there. It went on to gross 97 million domestic and another 128 million dollars internationally to finish with just under 225 million dollars worldwide. Which I mean, in the grand scheme of things, is not bad. The screenplay is done by Aaron Sorkin, of course, Steve Jobs, Moneyball, A Few Good Men, and you know what you're getting with him. Of course, he did The West Wing as well. Phenomenal, phenomenal writer. We'll get back to him a little bit later on. So he has a special little role in this. So this is based off the book The Accidental Billionaire by Ben Mesrick, directed by David Fincher. Seven, of course, I think everybody knows him from, but of course, Zodiac and Gone Girl. And he's just a phenomenal, phenomenal director. He has something coming out on Netflix later on this year, which I'm really interested in seeing. As a director, okay, in North America, his films have grossed $865 million, which is impressive. And worldwide, just under or right around $2.1 billion. Now, that's awesome. Put that in relation for a minute. Avengers Endgame grossed $2.7 billion for that one movie, and he's done 2.1 throughout his career. It's just something interesting to think about. Now, as everybody knows, I'm just going to give you the quick synopsis. Harvard student Mark Zuckerberg creates a social networking site that would become known as Facebook, and he's sued by the Van der Waals twins, who claimed to have stolen his idea, and the co-founder, who was later squeezed out of his own business. And it's just fascinating to see what kind of and how it is today. So now that you know what it's about, I'm gonna go through and give you a couple of points about the film. Um, so let's start out. Um, let's start out with one of I think the most important things when it comes to these films, And what really drives it, and that's the acting. The acting in this film is impeccable. It is one of those things that, frankly, it's underrated in this film. I mean, I because of everybody that had their moments in their roles, and we'll get to those moments in a couple minutes. But it's just incredible. Eisenberg was amazing. Um, some of the scenes that he's in, he comes off so brash, but yet he's so oblivious, and it's like he's living in his own world. Andrew Garfield, who's pictured to the left, incredible job by him. How he didn't get nominated for an Academy Award is beyond me. Of course, he has that scene which will be coming up in a couple minutes, but you know, his whole role, he really, it's the partnership between Jesse and Andrew that make this whole thing work. And of course, then you have on the right there is Justin Timberlake. And for the small role that he had, he was really good. I mean, he came in about a third of the way, maybe 35 or 40 minutes in the film. And for the scenes that he had, he was really good. Um, so, I mean, the club scene for his, and that's the scene pictured there is the club scene. He really, that was like his moment. Everybody has moments, and that was his moment. And I think that he really shined in that. And for what it was really good. So, yeah. Um, so as we start the film, just like, college kids being college kids, we have another, so we're put into this bar in Boston. Yay, it's from Boston. But seriously, so, I mean, it is at Harvard. And even Runa Mari, for the short time that she was in this film, was very good. She was very, very good, and I think underrated. Um, I mean, she's really not a household name. She's in films that, frankly, you go, "Oh, wow, that's Runa Mari?" Yeah. So she was incredible. She was absolutely incredible, and it's all a matter of how she did. That being said, I thought the cross cutting, and so I don't have pictures for all this stuff, but let me just get to a couple of things. The cross cutting between um, when so they break up, and of course he goes back to this place, and he starts putting girls on this website, facemash.com, and he hacks into all the houses and basically does that, and then you see the cross cutting between what he's doing here and the Phoenix house. And the Phoenix house, of course, is having a party with all these women. This is where he is now. This is where he wants to be. And, that was a fantastic job. Um, and, as they're going through and he's talking about this, the algorithm that, because he needs the algorithm to have this thing spread, it's really um, interesting. So putting it on the window was a really, really cool touch. Um, I thought that was a really, really cool touch in how they did that. Now we go back and forth quite a bit in depositions, and so one of the key things for that was we go from a very, I won't say laid back, but you know relaxed deposition to something that's um, very serious, and that's something to be said too. So that is just phenomenal. And then you see how everything, you know. So at that point, once he gets chastised by Harvard, you know, this is where the twins come in and come up with the idea, and really, that's when Mark starts the whole thing. So later on, we see Erica basically get, she's on the site, and one of her friends is on the site too. And that's when, this note gets passed in class, just like in fifth grade, guys. When you're in, or in high school, you're passing notes to, your favorite friends or maybe even your crush. That's what's happening here. And of course, the note says something not so nice. But just showing like the whole thing, the professor is asking a question. And he's like, yeah, another one bites the dust or is too difficult. And he asks a question, and of course, Mark just answered it very brashly as he's walking out the door. Um, but yeah, it's just incredible. And actually, it's interesting because when you look at his other films, and I say his other films, but Aaron Sorkin's other film that he wrote in Steve Jobs, of course, there's that scene in the third act where, Steve's getting ready for the Mac launch and Woz is sitting there, and it's one of those things where even though the banter is a lot more serious, um, you know, Steve is but he walks out, or Steve Wozniak walks out after the exchange, and you see the close-ups and everything else, but the writing is just superb. And he has a master. So anybody who has masterclass, not sponsored by them, but anybody who does have a masterclass, he's on there, and I watched it, and he's one of those film. He's one of those screenplay writers that's just everything he everything he touches is amazing. Um, and so we go back and forth between that and so as moving to the writing was just incredible. Um, and it's hard to believe, A Few Good Men was 30 years ago. So it's like, oh my God. And it's just one of those things where you look at the films that he's done over the course of his career, even television, right? The West Wing, um, Moneyball, Steve Jobs, all these films, The Social Network, they're all critically acclaimed. They're all critically acclaimed. And I think that's vitally important. So, once the whole business starts to get up and running, um, Steve or not Steve, I think it's Steve Jobs, Mark basically wants to put together a bigger crew. And that's where we have him, getting people to, because at this point, Sean has not made an influence. And so they're gonna move out to California, and yeah, and so once they go out to California, everything changes. But it's just they're still college kids at the end of the day. Um, but it's incredible to see what this is done and how this is done. And then of course, you know, Sean comes out. There's a bit of rivalry between Sean and Eduardo, and you know, um, Eduardo basically gets um, he's done dirty for lack of a better word, and so, but Andrew Garfield was amazing. Andrew Garfield was amazing, and as I said, every single one of these people, every single one of these players has um, a moment, and their moment to shine, and how they do it. And I want to play one clip because this just goes to show you what kind of person Eduardo or Mark was. Um, because I think that it's this just goes to show you. I mean, there are several moments. As I said, each actor has moments in this film, but I want to show you one of those moments that Mark is just completely oblivious and he's in his own world because I think it's important to see.
Were you leading them on for 6 weeks?
No.
Then why didn't you raise any of these concerns before?
It's raining.
I'm sorry?
It just started raining.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
Do you think I deserve it?
What?
Do you think I deserve your full attention?
I had to swear an oath before we began this deposition, and I don't want to perjure myself, so I have a legal obligation to say no.
Okay, no. You don't think I deserve your attention?
I think if your clients want to sit on my shoulders and call themselves tall, they have a right to give it a try, but there's no requirement that I enjoy sitting here listening to people lie. You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount. The rest of my attention is back at the offices of Facebook, where my colleagues and I are doing things that no one in this room, including and especially your clients, are intellectually or creatively capable of doing. Did I adequately answer your condescending question?
And that just goes to show you how he was able. He wasn't really listening to him. Um, I mean, he was, but he wasn't. And then he just obscurely turns to the window and says it's raining. And it's just amazing that he could snap on a dime like that. But that's acting. That's what kind of acting we're talking about in this movie. And I think it's so important because when you have the acting like that and you can mix it in, sky's the limit. And Eisenberg was just unbelievable in this movie. Um, and this is, I said this earlier. It's hard to believe this has been 13 years. And one of the points I'm gonna get into later on is the legacy that Facebook has led or is going to leave because there has been a lot of things in 13 years to happen. Um, so of course, and it goes back and forth. So nonetheless, um, eventually he has to settle, you know, but before he does, you know, so they're out in San Francisco, and of course, we have the million follower, the 1 millionth person to sign up and sign up for Facebook. Um, it's just incredible to think, and I'll play that clip a little bit later on because Garfield, for what he did in this scene that I'll be talking about a little later on, incredible. It's remarkable. He should have been nominated for an Oscar. Um, I mean, he got nominated a couple years ago for Tick Tick Boom. He's been nominated for Hacksaw Ridge. I mean, he's an impeccable actor. Of course, he was in the Spider-Man movies, but it's unbelievable. And when you have a stellar cast that can put it all together, um, it's incredible. The other thing I wanted to talk about the acting too is, as I said, Justin Timberlake had his moment in the sun. I mean, going back to this quick photograph here, um, this is in the club, and that's really his moment when push comes to shove. Um, and it's one of those things where he doesn't get a lot to do, but he's good when he gets it. And I think if you really this photograph here really displays something else too. The moments, and I keep going back to it. So this is on the left. You have Andrew with this scene. We'll be showing a little bit shortly. You've got you know Mark in the middle. Of course, that was the scene we just saw in that clip, and then Justin Timberlake. With Sean Parker there over the right in the bar in the club, and it's just one of those things where he has to settle. And I mean, even having the one of the last scenes when the court, one of the I won't say students, the younger crowd walks in. I butchering her thing. I'm sorry. She was an assistant, okay, and she wanted Cy wanted her to sit in and asking jury consultant essentially and asking what happens now and everything else. And it's just one of those things where you're probably gonna have to pay people. And so, she says there at the end that, look, you're not an asshole, but you're trying so hard not to be. And there's a difference. And that's that final scene where, you know, he just, he gets, he puts Erica's thing on and asks for a friend request. And then he just keeps repeating and clicking and doing, refreshing. And yeah, and it's amazing. Um, that all being said, so as I said, Andrew is like it's like peanut butter and jelly, if you will, and it's one of those things that they are amazing together. And this is the other clip I have and this will be the last clip we do today. And I want to just show you what Andrew can possibly do. I mean, we saw him in Tick Tick Boom. This was much earlier in his career. But when you are given good material and you are given a good script, nothing can stop you. And I mean, obviously, the story was really based on a true story, um, and it's just an amazing story. And so this is the clip that Andrew, I believe, steals the show.
Mr. Sapp. Mark! Mark!
He's wired in.
Sorry?
He's wired in.
Is he?
Yes.
How about now? You still wired in?
No security.
You issued 24 million new shares of stock.
You were told that if new investors
How
came
much were
along...
your shares diluted? How much were his?
What was Mr. Zuckerberg's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Mr. Moskowitz's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Sean Parker's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Peter Thiel's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
And what was your ownership share diluted down to?
0.03%.
You signed the papers. You set me up. You're gonna blame me because you were the business head of the company and you made a bad business deal with your own company?
It's gonna be like I'm not a part of Facebook.
It won't be like you're not a part of Facebook. You're not a part of Facebook.
My name's on the masthead.
You might want to check again.
It's because I froze the account?
You think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry! My Prada's at the cleaners! Along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops, you pretentious douchebag!
Security's here. You'll be leaving now?
I'm not signing those papers.
We will get the signature.
Tell me this isn't about me getting into the Phoenix. You did it. I knew you did it. You planted that story about the chicken.
I didn't plant the story about the chicken.
What's he talking
You
about?
had me accused of animal cruelty.
Seriously, what the hell's the chicken?
And I'll bet what you hated the most is that they identified me as a co-founder of Facebook, which I am. You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
Get him out of here.
It's okay, Will.
Hang on. Almost forgot. Here's your $19,000. I wouldn't cash it, though. I drew it on the account you froze.
I like sitting next to you, Sean. Makes me look so tough.
And that just goes to show you what kind of actor he is. He's an amazing actor. And it's just unbelievable what he's able to do when he's given the right material. So the last thing I want to touch upon today is the legacy of Facebook, because it has been 13 years. And it's really, I mean, it's become common, right? So now I'm going to give you a couple stats because I think they're worth not repeating, but bearing out. Okay. The first one is this. So Cameron and Ty Winklevoss got $65 million each, or not each, but $65 million total. And they signed an NDA, or a non-disclosure agreement, meaning they couldn't talk about it. So Eduardo Safran, he got a settlement too. Okay, he got his money. And he was restored to the co-founder of Facebook. Okay. But this is fascinating because in 2010, Facebook had 500 million members, which is amazing. Okay. I mean, we in the United States, I think there's about 350, 360 million people in the United States. I could be wrong about the number, but there's a lot of people. Okay. Now in 2023, there is 2.96 billion people on Facebook. Okay, that's in worldwide. As far as revenue is concerned, In 2010, it was valued at $25 billion. Today, $116 billion. Mark Zuckerberg was the youngest billionaire in the world because of that. But that just goes to show you one idea and one premise can just take off. And when it does, the sky's the limit. I mean, all you got to do, and coincidentally, we was talking about this earlier, was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, okay? I mean, we go back 15 years, he invented the iPhone. The movie Steve Jobs is not, by the way, if you want to side, I just put this on my Patreon. So, guys, so the page does have a Patreon. There's two levels, $5 and $10. $5 gets you one video, Mob Mondays, okay? Every single month on maybe the first or second Monday of the month, you'll be getting a new Mob movie. I mean, this week. So the two I have on there now is older, but we did The Departed with screenwriter Brad Rochefort, and Steve Jobs is the second one. But Jobs, what he did, you go back and watch that and you think about that. We wouldn't have the iPhone. We wouldn't have these little things here without Steve Jobs. We wouldn't have these because that was his invention. He got everybody together and was my phone goes off there, but he got everybody together and he was able to put not only something you could talk on, not only something you could watch videos on, but go on the internet with. This little gizmo here, it's a little computer. So when you're out and about in your day and you can't be by your desktop or your tablet or your hand, your PC, you've got this little guy. I mean, how many people check their email? My point is this. Steve Jobs was not the easiest person in the world to live with or to work with, but he created something really, really good. Same thing about Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg is not probably the easiest person to work with for, okay? And there's a lot of things that go into it, but look at Facebook. Facebook is the leading social media thing. I mean, you could say it's Instagram and that's it. But what I'm saying is Facebook was the first. Everybody will remember the first one of whatever it is. And that's what he did. And it's incredible. I mean, everybody. I'm there are people that don't, okay, because for one reason or another. But the majority of people, 7 or 8 out of 10 people, have a Facebook page, even if they don't post it on it. Like this show. This show, I don't post as often as I should on my Facebook. This show that you're watching right now, and all of the shows, they're going on Facebook. It is such a huge deal, and it is a worldwide thing. But it's interesting to know about the man, right? Because the man in itself, okay, that's who really developed it. Here's the thing. As I said, Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg have the same ideas. They're creative, but they may not be the easiest to get along with. Legacy for Facebook. Well, that's interesting because it's one of those things where you take somebody that is very hard-headed is not the word. I mean, look. He in Mark's mind, and be fascinating to ever find out if he has seen this and what he thought of it. But he's in a completely different thought process. Okay, he thinks completely different than everybody else, and so it's one of those things where his adaptation, his story being put on film was unbelievable. and I'm so glad they did, and I'm so glad Fincher, did this, and Sorkin is just a master writer. Anything he does, I cannot think. I mean, maybe I'm sure there are things out there, but for the most part, everything he touches, Sorkin, is top notch. It's top notch. Whether it is Moneyball, whether it is Gone Girl, whether it is The Social Network, whether it is The West Wing, and it's two totally different things because writing for television and writing for a feature film, A Few Good Men, people forget. He that's where he got his start. That was his very first feature film, was A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. I mean, that was the stage play that he did, and I mean, it's one of the memes out there, one of the most iconic lines, and it's actually turning 30. You know, so yeah, The Social Network, for my money, like I keep saying, it's a perfect movie. It is a perfect movie, and maybe I would be you would be very hard pressed to find somebody that didn't like The Social Network. I mean, maybe there are aspects about it, but as far as the film itself, a filmmaker, this is a filmmaker's dream. Getting great actors, getting a great director, getting a great screenplay, and then having it all come together. And the other thing too is this: it was all shot in one location. That's the thing. I mean, you didn't have landmarks like the state house or whatever else, but it was all shot in one city. So cut down, the budget and everything else. Anyways, that is The Social Network. It's an incredible movie. I watched it again. I forgot how good it was. So it's an incredible movie, and you know, 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back and going, "Wow." So, okay, guys. So that's it. Um, so my goal today is I'm going to go see Air. I think I'm going to go see the 1 o'clock show with that, and then come back, and I will be preparing for the show because obviously this is the opening day of it. I'm not going to be able to talk about it until at least Friday. So um yeah, so I'll do a spoiler cast on Friday for that. And what I will be doing in the meantime though is preparing for the show. So when I do get back, we'll be going on with 3 or 4 stories, and it looks like there might be some stuff cooking up. So we'll see what happens. But that's it. I don't know what May is going to that perfect movie is going to be. I have a whole list of movies. We'll see. Um, and that's it. So, okay, guys. Um, as I said, go check out the Patreon. It's very cheap. I will be promoting something once I get it retweaked. That if anybody wants to do, that's gonna be obviously monetary as well. But yeah. So, all right, guys, do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, have a great day, and be careful. And I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks and the Perfect Movie Series. Bye bye.